Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, horror, and mystery film called The Privilege. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. When he was a child, Finn was left alone with his older sister, Anna. When their parents, Martin and Yvonne, left for Finn's twin sister's recital. While he was playing a game, the electricity momentarily got cut off, and he noticed mysterious things happening, like the knife rack getting knocked over and doors opening on their own. Slowly, he went upstairs to check on his sister, hearing a commotion inside her bedroom and seeing her with a bloody mouth and holding a knife. She was acting erratically, grabbing Finn's head and forcing him to open his mouth, but he pleaded for her to stop. A noise then distracted Anna, so Finn grabbed the knife away from his distraught sister. Anna said something was inside their house, so she took Finn to the car so they could escape. Finn then saw the shadowy creature that Anna was running away from, and they stopped at the bridge where Anna ordered Finn to jump with her so that the creature wouldn't get to them. Anna jumped moments later, attempting to pull Finn down with her, but the boy begged her to let go of him and ended up kicking her off instead. In the present day, Finn is now a teenager, but he's still heavily traumatized by what happened that night and still attends regular checkups with Dr. Steinke. Unfortunately, he shows no improvement, and Dr. Steinke informs him that the incident left consequential damage in a section of his brain. The doctor then gives him his pills once their session is done. At school, Finn's best friend Lena successfully convinces him to attend a senior party thrown by Leander to help him get with his crush, Samira, Dr. Steinke's daughter. Back at home, Finn's mother goes through his belongings and finds out that he's been drawing disturbing images and keeping a picture of Anna. The senior party is held at an abandoned natatorium, where Leander approaches Finn with a bottle of substance that will help him relax. Although hesitant at first, he drinks the whole bottle and immediately feels the effects, triggering his trauma. Finn starts to recount gruesome details of that night, blending in with his reality, seeing his hand holding a knife and the crowd covered with blood. Finn passes out and wakes up at home, and his parents are worried about his condition, upset that he didn't tell them that he went to a party. His mother then confronts him about his drawings, but Finn insists that he's fine. Later on, Finn visits his grandfather Bergman at the hospital. The two are really close, and the old man asks Finn to pray for him so that they'll have more time to spend together. Finn wakes up one night after hearing a mysterious conversation downstairs, so he checks it out, only to find his family performing a ritual with his twin sister, Sophie. Being the subject of it all, scared, he takes a hatchet and slowly walks up to them. But when Sophie looks at him, a shadowy creature knocks him unconscious. When Finn wakes up, he realizes that his parents called Dr. Steinke to examine his condition. He then details what he saw earlier, the naked old woman and Sophie, but everyone waves him off, not knowing what he's talking about. The next day, Finn checks on Sophie and sees her pressed against the frosted glass door with blood coming out of her mouth. But when he slides the door open, it's just a normal Sophie trying to get dressed. Even at school, Finn is still worried about Sophie as he sees her arguing with her boyfriend, Ramin. During gym class, Ramin and Finn talks about it, not knowing what's going on with Sophie's behavior, but Ramin assumes that it might be a side effect of the new pills they've been taking. Meanwhile, Lena notices blood dripping on her face, realizing that Sophie is bleeding excessively through her nose before falling from the rope as she passes out. Then back at home, their mother tells Sophie to rest, but she says she's fine. When Finn momentarily leaves the room to check who's at the door, he returns and sees Sophie moving a cup without touching it. Finn thinks it's odd but keeps quiet about it, simply notifying her that Ramin is outside. However, Sophie doesn't want to see Ramin and tells Finn to deal with him. Still, Ramin won't give up and keeps calling for Sophie to talk, worried about her, but the twins' mother tells him that he should give her some space. That night, Finn takes a baseball bat and watches over Sophie in her sleep, not noticing the shadowy creature underneath her bed. Sophie then wakes up and sees a distraught Finn, confronting him about his behavior. They argue about Sophie's condition, but she's more worried about how Finn is acting strangely. When Finn gets back to his room, he gets frantic texts from Ramin that they need to meet up because they are in danger and he has something important to warn him about. Then, while Ramin waits for Finn at the diner, he takes out the same pills that were prescribed to the twins. Moments later, Ramin hears a voice calling out to him, so he follows it and sees an old lady lying inside the car wash, choking. Ramin checks on her, but he suddenly gets thrown back when the lady opens her eyes. After that, Ramin slowly gets up, but the lady appears behind him and starts strangling him. Soon, Finn arrives at the diner, but he's too late, seeing the streaks of blood on the car wash window. He goes inside to look for Ramin, only to see his dead body on top of a car. Then, Finn slowly turns around and sees the shadowy creature before running away. the cops are called, and Finn's father comes over to check on him. But Finn expresses disbelief when the cops say that Ramin took his own life, because he's certain that Ramin wouldn't kill himself after calling him to talk about something. The police think that Ramin simply wanted Finn to find him, presumably because of drugs. Finn tries to show them Ramin's messages from earlier, but every text has been erased from his phone. Finn and his dad talk to the inspector, Gerber, and Finn still insists that Ramin's been murdered. Tired of Finn's rambling, Gerber shows him the footage revealing that there aren't any cameras inside the car wash, but the only people seen in the available footage are Ramin, an old lady, and him. Gerber implies that Finn might be the culprit, so the boy angrily walks away. In his room, Finn is about to take his prescription pills, but he sees something strange inside, cutting it open, only to get a bizarre organism from it. He then shows it to Lena the next day, noticing that it's been growing. They show it to the lab teacher, who points out that it's a fungus that only grows on dead bodies, so she refers them to someone who knows more about the topic. The two research more about the fungus, thinking they're just mushrooms that get a person high. Samira approaches them, noticing that they're looking at trichozepam, the same pills that Samira's mother, Dr. Steinke, gives to her. Finn tries to tell her not to take the pills, but she brushes him off and just invites him for a study session later that day. While Finn talks to Samira, Leander confronts him about his party, mad that Leander's dad Gerber found out about it, even though Finn wasn't the one who snitched. Still, he blames Finn that he now has to see a doctor, specifically Dr. Steinke. Lena and Finn visit the person their teacher was talking about, Eliska. When Finn shows the fungus jar to Eliska and her son, Juri, they're immediately intrigued. Worried, Eliska takes the jar and leads them to the back. Finn tells her that the fungus was in the pills they were given, so Eliska asks him whether he can see the shadows, which surprises him. She then holds his hand and sees visions of his traumatic past, and Eliska informs him that they need to perform an exorcism to save Sophie, but Finn becomes defensive and leaves. Finn goes to the hospital to visit his grandfather, who's about to undergo surgery. He then asks him about the evil creatures, and his grandfather says that he once performed an exorcism when he was a pastor. As Finn is left alone, the lights suddenly go out and he is led to the surgery room. Finn looks inside the room and sees shadows starting to come out of his grandfather's body. So he knocks on the glass, getting the doctors and nurses to stop until he breaks the window. The shadowy creature then appears in front of him, but his mind is just playing tricks on him, for everything is actually fine. Once a nurse shows up to escort him out, Finn realizes that the glass is not broken and there's no shadowy creature. Moments later, the nurse informs Finn that the surgery went well. Finn immediately goes home, now set on going through with the exorcism. However, Finn finds Samira in their house because they were supposed to meet earlier, and she becomes visibly upset when Finn tries to make her leave. Lena then shows up, making Samira think that something is going on between her and Finn, which they immediately deny. Nonetheless, Lena invites Samira to witness the exorcism. Eliska starts smoking their house with sage and even puts one beside the sleeping Sophie. Meanwhile, Juri explains the process to Samira and Lena, saying they talk to the spiritual beings using a white noise machine, recording the sound and hopefully picking up the voices. As they start, Eliska reminds them that nobody's allowed to speak while the ritual is ongoing, and no matter what, they shouldn't look at the spirit if it shows up. Eliska then swallows the pills from Finn and puts on a veil before they all hold hands in a circle. At first, they aren't getting anything, but soon enough, they catch a voice that says, "Get out, she belongs to me." So they continue making contact until their machine explodes. Samira panics and tries to leave, but Juri immediately stops them and says they can't break the circle. Moments later, the shadowy creature appears beside Finn before attacking Eliska, until the lights turn on. Finn's parents arrive and demand to know what's going on, kicking the strangers out of their house, but Eliska is worried and insists on finishing the ritual. Finn then chases after Eliska, but Juri pushes him away, worried about his wounded mother. Lena and Samira leave too, and Finn goes with them despite his parents' protests. Scared of the situation, the three brave the night together huddled in the abandoned natatorium, where they spend a moment of intimacy. That night, Samira wakes up because of a sound and tries to notify Finn beside her, but she sees Finn coming from the restroom, making her panic because someone else is still holding her hand. She looks down and sees the shadowy creature holding onto her, so she starts backing away in distress. The three go back to Eliska's place, hoping they can finish the ritual, but the landlord answers the door and says Eliska and Juri ran away like the devil was after them. With nothing else to do, Samira suggests that they should just own up to their mistake and apologize to their parents so that they'll leave them alone. Finn calls his mom to do Samira's suggestion, apologizing to her. He then checks up on Sophie, but his mom says they increased her dosage of the trichozepam, so Finn tries to warn her that they should stop making her take it. However, she just waves off Finn's worries. All of a sudden, Leander runs to the restroom, coughing and checking something inside his mouth. Finn tries to help him, but he refuses his help and leaves. Still, Finn doesn't give up, going to Lena and Samira to ask whether they've seen Leander. Leander appears on the rooftop holding a knife, stabbing the inside of his mouth before jumping off the building. The ambulance quickly arrives, so Finn and Samira come with him. Meanwhile, Leander keeps choking, and as the paramedic notices it, he pulls out the fungus in his mouth. On the other hand, Lena picks up a trichozapam box from Leander's belongings and follows its lead. She learns more details about the drug through internet surfing, and then she leaves Finn a voice message that says she's going to a launch event thrown by Tronthal. Lena steals someone else's pass to watch the presentation, where she finds out that Finn's father is the company's CEO. As he's taken to the emergency room, Leander tells the two that they should look at the files he found in his bag. To ease their worries, Finn and Samira check each other's mouths to make sure there aren't any fungi growing inside them. Then they check Leander's bag, seeing adoption records. They find out that Leander is adopted, but Samira thinks it's not a big deal because she's adopted too. However, that's not where the oddity ends. Finn finds out that he and Sophie are also adopted, and so is their late sister Anna. Meanwhile, Lena sneaks into Tronthal's manufacturing area and sees a room full of dead bodies, growing the fungus they're putting inside the trichozapam pills. Lena then sees Eliska among the dead bodies, which upsets her. Frightened, Lena runs back to her car when the same old lady that killed Ramin comes up to her window, asking for her pass back. But thankfully, she's able to leave safely. A little while later, Finn and Samira get the news from Leander's adoptive father, Gerber, that Leander didn't make it. However, Gerber sees that they've been looking into the adoption records, so he tells them the truth. Finn and his siblings aren't the only ones who are adopted, but also his adoptive father, Martin, adding that his grandfather founded Tronthal. But they find out that Gerber is not on their side, saying the company will change the world. Finn runs to his grandfather to ask more questions, but the doctors are losing him, and he dies right in front of him. Then, when Finn gets closer, the doctor comes up behind him and sedates him. Finn falls unconscious and wakes up back at his home, tied to a reclining stretcher with IV bags strapped to him, while Samira is tied to a chair. Moments later, Dr. Steinke pushes Finn to a secret entrance, telling him that it's his special day, and the doctor opens the door without even touching it. On the way there, Finn sees carvings on the wall and asks what they are, so Dr. Steinke explains that they're entities considered as fallen angels or demons, adding that they've always been around. The door then opens, revealing the members of their organization, including his parents and Sophie, who are all noticeably acting strange. As it turns out, they're going to use Finn's body as a host for one of their spirits, the one that resides inside his grandfather's body. They start the transition process, further strapping Finn to the reclining stretcher before forcing his mouth open and cutting his tongue. The rest of them sit together, holding onto a pipe as they open their mouths to let the shadows out. Then, after the doctor uses a defibrillator on Finn's grandfather, he gets on top of Finn, and the shadow transfers from his body into the boys. Meanwhile, Samira panics as she hears strange noises, only to find out it's Lena, who immediately rushes to save Finn. Lena douses Finn's captors with gasoline and hits Grandfather Bergman before lighting a flare to burn them. Lena gets stopped by the doctor while she unstraps Finn, so Finn stabs him. Then, as they run to escape, Finn grabs a fungus that's starting to grow inside his mouth. As if that's not enough, Lena suddenly gets thrown in midair and slammed on the ground. Still, they continue running for dear life, and Finn turns on the gas on their fireplace to set up an explosion. Samira meets them outside, driving the car, but Sophie stands in front of them, begging Finn not to let her die. However, he knows that Sophie isn't the one in her own body anymore, so he tells Samira to run her over. They continue driving until they reach the tunnel, where Samira realizes that the brakes aren't working. Then, a shadowy creature comes out of their air conditioning unit, so they try not to breathe in, but they end up crashing into the railings. Fortunately, they're able to get out safely before their vehicle falls. The three continue their journey on foot, hoping to escape all of it, but they see a billboard endorsing trichozapam. They then realize that they can't trust anyone anymore, and unfortunately, Finn and Len have no idea that Samira is no longer herself.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.